Are you on the edge of your seat? Because we're about to sound off with Kevin Williams, covering today's latest trends in location-based entertainment. Brought to you by the LBX Collective, your community to connect, engage, and inspire. All right, everyone, let's buckle up.
All right. Well, welcome everybody to Sound Off with Kevin Williams. This is episode number 106 for January 20th, 2026. Kevin, my friend, how are you doing, sir?
Zooming along through 2026, it feels like, but I'm fine. How are you?
I'm doing well. Yeah. Looking forward to getting into this and seeing how you're going to change my mind this time.
Well, we've touched upon sportainment on a number of occasions, and we just really need to see, is it going to be a standalone entertainment offering, or is it going to be a major part of the social entertainment's next phase of development? I think it is. From the number of competitive socializing venues that we're going to be reporting on opening their doors for the first time in Open and Shut, a number of these have wrapped themselves very heavily in sportainment, whatever that means, depending on how they're trying to sell their brand.
Yeah. I think for me anyway, I think it heavily depends on the way that it's implemented, the form factor, and the level of engagement you can have with your friends or your family coming to, again, hang out. Now, I guess there's maybe two different angles of sportainment. There's the competitive socializing sportainment direction, right? So this is clays for shooting. This is 5-iron for golf. This is Toka Social for soccer, right? And maybe home run dugout for baseball and all the other variants thereof for some of these, right? So I think if we're talking about that as sportainment, then the form factor is important. The F&B is important. The way that if we're talking about something different, like a Spocha with round one, where it's like just a bunch of different sports courts, and you're supposed to go to round one, play amusement games and some bowling downstairs and eat some sushi, and then go upstairs and then like run around on a basketball court. I'm not sure about that actually succeeding. So I think there's like deep, heavy sports, and then there's like this competitive socializing. I would also put pickleball in that like sportainment category, but not in the competitive socializing side. Like in more like, I'm going to go play this game and maybe have a beer afterwards, or maybe have a drink, but I'm not really there to like hang out. I'm there to play pickleball with my friends, but I'm really there to play pickleball. Like that's why I'm coming. And I think there's two distinctions that I think are important with sportainment.
You're heading in a direction that I've been thinking about for some time. I actually would say that the competitive socializing approach, like Clay's, is sportainment, i.e. they're using recreations of sporting shotguns, though the gamification of the actual experience is very soft. You could say the same about Toka Social. They're using real footballs, and you're showing football skills, but you are not playing on a pitch, as it were. You are playing a video game using that as your tool. And where Spocha comes into that, and all of the others, I would put into the basket of active entertainment, where they're using physicality and active enjoyment, but really they're not focusing on the sports. So that poor old pickleball experience sits in the middle of that, though I feel it is important to separate if you're doing a hard sports entertainment venue against just an active entertainment environment. And maybe the sportainment terminology could be confusing, especially now that we see a high level of investment going into what has been defined to the investors as sportainment. Our friends at Home Run Dugout raising $22 million for their Series A funding is a considerable investment in what would be called in their reporting as sportainment. The same way that Ballers, has raised $22 million for their Series A. And these are operations that are now going to be looking out, rolling out a competitive socializing environment, but with a strong sports element. anyway.
All right. Well, coming up after the quick break, we will dive right into some more trends.
Intercard is the only cashless system designed, developed, and manufactured all under one roof. They introduced cashless technology to the amusement industry and have been leading the way for over 30 years. Cashless systems from Intercard increase customer spending, guest satisfaction, and boost revenues by up to 30%. Intercard is so proud to be serving the amusement industry, and if you aren't already part of their global family of customers, they hope you will become one soon.
Thank you, Intercard. And jumping straight into the economy side, and we touched upon this in Open and Shut, but one of those victims of the changing landscape in the retail sector, and also a company that had toyed with the idea of even putting some retro arcade machines in their facilities to try and increase their dwell, was GameStop. Now, we wake up to the news as we enter 2026 that they have decided to bite the bullet and gone for a considerable root and branch closure of facilities. Over 300 of their retail stores have been cut or scythed by management as they totally restructure and replan their business going forwards. It is an example for all of us of how brands go through this kind of boom and bust. We saw GameStop becoming a stonk share opportunity as the markets vied and played, and people took a punt at trying to boost or elevate their pricing. But fundamentally, GameStop was a busted flush as a concept, and I would actually argue is the really the video store of our society. Maybe in 10 years' time, we will not even think that purchasing video game content is something that you do at a retailer, because physical media will have disappeared, and maybe most people will be purchasing their peripherals and the consoles that they are buying all online. And that may be pointing towards a future model for something that we in the out-of-home entertainment industry could embrace, which is maybe having venues that include a place to test out and physically play games in a priced model. But that's just an idea I'm throwing out.
Yeah, I mean, I gave a little bit of a diatribe on GameStop and their outdated model on Open and Shut. So I'm not going to repeat that for here. But this is just it's disappointing for all, as you mentioned, of the employees. This is not an insignificant. If they're closing down, an estimated 390 stores, then that's a significant number of employees. I mean, not in the grand scheme of things, but for each of them individually, that is disappointing. And it's just frustrating when it was clearly mismanagement and lack of vision at the executive level that ends up leading to this these employees losing their jobs.
Yeah, and we wish them well where they move on to next. Though, as I say, this is a blockbuster moment for the video game sector. And there are implications much greater going on. To the trending in the biz, a little light this run round. Brand new managing director for our friends at Professionals at Play. We were talking about them in Open and Shut with new venues that they had opening. They're known for the Roxy Lane, the Roxy Ballrooms, the Kingpins, and their new Star Pins operation. 26 sites out there. So definitely, I get the feeling that Ben's coming in to try and increase that number considerably against the competition of the Lane 7s and the Gravities and the others, the Hollywood Bowls that they have to compete against.
Yeah, and it's good, I think, to see them. I mean, they haven't had many missteps yet at this point, so it's good to see him as the finance director moving into the managing director role. So he's definitely coming from internal, so he's going to have some of that internal culture, and you're not going to see significant shakeup at really a fairly early, still relatively early stage for the brand, or the set of brands, I should say.
Yeah, and we know that they've got some restructuring going on with some other aspirations, which I'm sure we'll be reporting about later in the year. one of those kind of sportainment concepts that we were touching upon earlier, and we have a brand new, well, pseudo brand new soccer active entertainment experience. There's not a lot of technology here other than maybe some wristband connectivity that they incorporate. This is one of 4 facilities that exist, mainly in Portugal and the UAE, and this is their first US location. You know, not my cup of tea. You know, I'll lay my cards on the table. I'm not a soccer follower, but it is scratching an itch for a large audience. And the idea of this merging active entertainment with a sportstainment kind of feel is maybe an example of the future that we will see from other sports.
Oh, yeah. This one is tough for me. I mean, not that they won't be successful. You know, in fact, like, you know, we talked about an open and shut. You know, I did question whether or not Orange County was in California was really the best first U.S. location. And even the more I thought about it between recording open shut and recording this, if we were to stick with California, which to your point, Kevin, you said, you know, the soccer mom sort of like became became a thing from California, which I don't necessarily disagree with. It is a much bigger thing in the Bay Area than it is in the Los Angeles area. And so I could have seen this like popping up in San Jose, just south of the soccer stadium there, and really being able to draw from a large swath of a diverse population that plays football and comes from playing football, you know, because they bring in, you know, there's a lot of immigration that happens due to the tech sector up in the Silicon Valley area. So I could have seen that almost be a better location in California, given what this is. You know, and so this is where I really struggle with, like, this is definitely active play, active entertainment, but almost not just for the pure enjoyment of just going and kicking a ball around. This is like meant to train you to be a better soccer player or football player, right? And they have group play, they have individual training, and yes, it is high tech. There is some AI, quote unquote, that they're using to implement. There's the wristbands that are tracking their scores and their health metrics and everything else. But it really does come down to this facility is built around helping me become, or my kid become, a better football player. And that I don't see as a successful entertainment venue, right? This could be a very successful instantiation of a training facility for young kids to get better at football. But I don't see it as a place where, like, they're just going to go and run around and have fun casually.
And it's that entertainment level, that engagement, the agency and the engagement with an entertainment model that kind of draws a line. So I would argue that some of the early golf simulator centers were purely there to improve your swing, improve your long or your short game, and the entertainment value was supplied by them offering you a coffee or a drink during your sessions. I would argue that some of the driving ranges, and I don't mean the golf driving ranges, but actually the racing karting ranges, some of them set up purely to train you as a better racing kart driver or even a racing car driver. The level of fun has been eased back towards competition more than, and there's a lot of competition going on at Foot Labs. There are teams competing against each other, and there will be league games and such like. So again, we must be careful that Venn diagram, that mess that I have, will have a section now that will incorporate sport, but how much that sport feeds into being an entertainment or as just a side component of the overall offering is interesting. And again, I would argue very strongly that this is more of a training ground for soccer than an entertainment facility for football.
Yeah, completely agree. And I'm just trying to get pricing for what I have right now. The only way
their website sucks, the big one. It's very flashy, but yeah,
it's non-functional. I mean, I shouldn't say that. It's functional, but even in order to book, I still don't even know. I've gone through the booking process. I still don't even know what the actual pricing is for me to come there for 1 hour in the facility. I also would argue that they should absolutely have memberships. And if they haven't, maybe they sell memberships when you get to the front counter, but they're not selling them online. And this is entirely a membership model. This is the gym membership model, the trampoline park membership model that somebody's going to want to come every day or multiple times a week in order to, again, continue to improve their skills.
I can't work out why the web page is so bad, especially as they have 4 facilities. I tried to jump into their Lisbon site just to get away from this one, and it won't let me, and it won't give me information. So, guys, if you're watching, please sort it out. But anyway, moving on to the tech trends, and we had CES take place, and I told you so. The VR was very thin on the ground. There was VR there. There were companies promoting new form factor VR, but it was drowned out by the continuing shouting from the AI smart glasses market, who are working incredibly hard to try and get some difference between the variety of different glasses out there that seem to bring zero to the table compared to what has already been done, and also trying to blur quite actively the definition between AR and AI glasses. The AI glasses gives you hardly anything other than maybe audio capability, phone call capability, and some photographic capability. The AR glasses, or the AR-like glasses, give some text to speak information in the glasses. But the real fundamental of having that HUD, that head-up display, still seems to be only limited to a very small number of manufacturers who can't really pull the price down, and so these systems get pushed into the corner. And we're at that stage now where the AR glasses and the AI glasses are a platform looking for an opportunity or an application that will get people to put their hands in their pockets. We are told that these AI glasses are selling well. They always point to the Ray-Ban, Meta Ray-Ban series of AI glasses. But I also noticed that a lot of the reporting about that mistakenly reports these as AR glasses, or claims that most of these sales are of the display version of the Ray-Ban system. And the display system, which only has one screen and one eye, which has been causing problems with early adopters, is also that it's very small sales. They've, Meta even turned around and announced that they would be curtailing plans to roll out the display version of their smart glasses to Europe and the rest of the world, while they focus on sorting out the American market. To buy these glasses, you actually, in many cases, have to go. You can't just buy them online. You actually have to physically go to one of their facilities, go through the demonstration, and then commit to purchasing. And that kind of security of sale tells me that there's a lot more going on behind the curtain regarding how successful AI and AR glasses are as a replacement to VR.
Yeah, I guess it depends what we're considering the future killer app to be. I don't see these glasses as being a replacement to VR. I think they will be truly what the AR thing, augment your daily experience. But it will come down to the killer app, and it'll come down to the operating system. But currently, as it stands today, this overwhelming amount of variety is just ripe for dissolution or consolidation.
Consolidation, we hope. We don't want to go through a bloodletting that we saw in the VR sector. And I need to be a little bit more clear when I say as a replacement to VR. From a customer's using point of view, I totally agree with you, there isn't a replacement. But from a investor's point of view, they need to find the next bandwagon to jump onto, because they've got a black eye over VR. And we have now seen that ratcheted up to 100 over the last couple of days as we've entered 2026. So smug mode on, and I told you so on, back in 2024, I tried to advise everybody at the IALPA conference that we did that, please guys, try and head towards the XR exit rather than the VR exit, because VR is going to be tarnished quite heavily by a level of toxicity as, the big companies in the consumer VR sector. Forget how good the revenue generation is for us in the location-based entertainment. It is the customer's perception. And we really have seen a never-ending number of news stories kind of hinting that VR is over from their point of view, and that XR is in, and maybe AI is the replacement. And from an investor's point of view, if you sunk a whole load of money into VR and you've got nothing out of it, you're going to try and sink money into the AI and the AR glasses, hoping that you can dodge the loss. We saw the global shipment of mixed reality and virtual reality headsets in last year, 2025, at a 7-year low, minimal sales. And most of those big sales numbers were in our sector, in the commercial and in the location-based entertainment sector. But don't tell anyone, because the media doesn't really want to sell that story. They're just wanting to sell the story, it bleeds, it leads, VR's in trouble. And really, Apple's decision to pull back on their aspirations, and then the rumors that started last year that Meta was in the process of pulling back on their aspirations, started a kind of VR is dead attitude amongst the media and some of the influencers. A lot of influencers jumped ship and ran away from covering VR and even covering the Apple system, even though they were receiving quite interesting suggestions to keep on supporting that. But it really hit the fan, as it were, a couple of days ago when Meta just had a bloodletting, and they admitted that they were pulling money away from their mixed reality and virtual reality interests, and that their Meta Reality Lab would be focusing more on their AI glasses and their AR aspirations. They then turned around and started saying that they'd started job layoffs within their VR divisions. We then heard that another group of layoffs, another 10% had been cut. And then we started seeing the game studios that have been creating content, successful game content for VR platforms. These studios that Meta owned being shuttered. They've been closed down. Sometimes in mid-game development, sometimes after just recently releasing a VR title. One of these studios had released the Deadpool VR experience, and though it wasn't a stellar seller, and then to cut the studio so hard, close the studio down, kind of tells us that Meta has had intervention from its financials. It's kind of had someone sit down, and an intervention has been, you spent nearly $80 billion on the metaverse, on your virtual reality experience, and you've got nothing to show for it. You've got a transient audience that doesn't have retention. You've got kids running around Gorilla Tag, which may be fantastic, but you've cheesed off all of the other VR users that actually have money to spend on content. And fundamentally, all of the targets that you were claiming that you were going to hit in the virtual reality sector with your subsidization of your platform have been failed. They have been missed. And I don't think we've seen an ending to the bloodletting. It's quite serious. As we're recording this, there is a meeting taking place at Reality Labs headquarters, where I think some major announcements are going to be made about even further cutting back on their VR aspirations. And sadly, for the consumer VR sector, this is quite a blow. They've been living on copium for a long time, hoping that things were going to get better for them. They're looking towards the Valve Steam Frame PC VR system coming in and being a savior of them, though I do believe the light that they see at the end of the tunnel may be an oncoming steam train.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have much. You covered it all very well. I don't have much else to add here, other than the fact that the very fact that they're closing down not just layoffs within the VR and Meta divisions, but closing down actual game studios that they had acquired over the years. That is the clearest signal to me that at the executive level, management and board level, they've decided that this is absolutely this is not the direction they're going, and to shut down all investment.
We said for many times, I'm a broken record about, please understand that putting your hopes and dreams in Meta is, kind of being the fox carrying the salamander across the water. At some point halfway through the middle of the river, you're going to get stung in the back. And it was poo-pooed a lot of the time. And, they're subsidizing the market, they're growing the market. No matter how much they've grown the market in the consumer VR sector, this level of withdrawal will do more damage than if they hadn't touched it. And we are so lucky in the location-based entertainment that our VR boom is not tied to this. And that's, again, another reason why I was trying to emphasize we're an XR sector rather than a VR sector. One of the success stories in the VR application has been the development of patents and technologies that help drive the sector. And our friends at VR Leo received a patent for their self-cleaning system. If you're not familiar with this, their suspended VR headset at the end of play is sucked up into a housing above your head, waiting for the next player. And within that housing, the company came up with an idea of putting in a UV sterilization system, which has been awarded a patent. And maybe this is an application that we will be seeing applied in other tethered VR experiences that we have in our sector.
Yeah, if they're not already planning to license this technology out to tethered VR providers, then I think they're missing a huge opportunity. I think the one other advantage I'll say here, besides obviously the self-cleaning, which is actually just brilliant, brilliant move on their part, is that it retracts the headset back up into a box that is out of the way of the little crazy kids running around who run and jump and hit it, and it's just so they can watch it swing, or they pull on it or hang on it or everything else. It only comes down when you've swiped your game card and you're ready for gameplay. And it comes down, and not only comes down, but it comes down clean. And it's going to be clean because it's been in a UV box. So, great job here. And I do hope we see this rolled out in some sort of licensed format.
I'm going to make a point of trying to hunt down what our friends at VR Leo are going to be doing in the sector, because they've been very quiet regarding new product releases and installations. But again, this is one to watch for our sector, at least. Anyway.
All right. So coming up after a quick break, we'll continue with the trends. Power up your game floor with Arcades by Alan One. Whether it's perfectly pouring drinks in Dr. Pepper Soda Slam, grabbing official Butts on Things plushies, or defending cities from attack and missile command recharge, Alan One has something for every venue and arcade floor that will delight your guests. Each game is also enhanced with Major League Esports, a free app that tracks player top scores and brings guests back to your venue for more. Visit allen-one.com to learn more. That's allen-one.com.
Thank you, Alan One. And we're jumping into a talking point here where I recently come back from the EAG show in London, the first of the big amusement exhibition trade shows that takes place in January. The London show has a long and rich history. It's been going through the changes of the industry, and it is also a very good barometer post-IALPA to see where the things that we saw launched at IALPA, how many of those have stuck, how many of those things have gained momentum, how many of the trends that we charted are actually finding interest from the people at the coalface, the operators that are purchasing this. So the show took 2.5 days. It's fair to say that it is much smaller than it previously was. It's gone quite drastically through the change, and part of that is the dependence on distributors. Distributors now take booth space, and where you would have had 6 or 7 companies exhibit, they now use a distributor to represent all of their interests, and so of course smaller. There is also the issue that it's expensive to do exhibitions, and so you have to be very careful to pick which ones you're going to be doing in the year, especially if you're an international company. London has a double whammy. We have a perfect storm going on, because this year we had EAG in the Excel Center, and if you wait 6 months, you'll be having IALPA Europe in the Excel Center, and that played on a lot of people's minds. People that would have had bigger booths cut them back because they're thinking about the double expense. Also, it is difficult for the amusement trade in the UK to really get its brain around how the future is for it. It is embracing the technology, it is embracing the new machines, but the fundamental business model is not throwing as much new blood into the business. And so the show is a kind of an indicator of an industry in transition. We had all of the amusement new releases that we saw at IALPA. We saw a very small amount of new surprise redemption models, mainly from China. And I'll leave Adam to be the one to go into the forensic examination of what we saw at the show. But I think it would be very small beer compared to what we would have expected in previous years. I can remember 10, 15, 20 years ago when this show was where the Japanese manufacturers would test the waters with their brand new Western releases, and it'd be a big wow. Now, I would argue that there was only really one big video amusement piece that got the wow effect, and that was really from a game that is already known by the market, just has come out as a new edition. We had the appearance of all of the new wave crane and claw machines. We also had the capsule vendortainment. The disgruntled chap in that photo, I was trying to get a picture of the E-Claw 2.0 machine, but it was difficult to get a picture without one of the attendees of the show not wanting to be in the photo. But anyway, it was there, and it wasn't as earth-shattering as many had. To be honest, I had to actually go back to the booth to double check that it was the E-Claw 2.0 rather than just another of the claw machines. It isn't as stunning as I think it was sold to be, and I'll be interested to see how it is received when it's not behind an inflatable wall at Amusement Expo in March. Moving on, VR was there. VR still plays a part in the amusement trade. I would argue that this is the kind of number of VR machines that we're going to expect in our future, where it will be in the 4s, the 3s and the 4s of machine categories that we see, rather than the 20s, 30s and 60s that we saw in previous years. VR is also going through a transition, which is it's moved away from being the novelty and it's now the revenue generator. So many of the machines that you're seeing have proven revenue generation capability or fit a business model that is working. Our friends at Relix, for example, broke their duck and were exhibiting at the London show with a very cost-effective VR platform, which offers something to UK operators compared to the more expensive VR platforms.
Just a quick question on the one on the right. That is the VR coaster. Is that just or the VR simulator or a coaster simulator? Is it like a full rotation, like a DOF Robotics, or so how many DOF, or is it just like the seat vibrates?
That's a 4 DOF motion-based system, Swift Ride. It's actually quite an older system. The company behind it has developed a number of VR systems, and there's some interesting news that this VR company is now merged with another company to offer a stronger representation of VR products into the market. So consolidation is being seen in the sector. But no, yes, it does look like it's going to be the 360 Hurricane kind of approach, but no, it is just quite an energetic 4 DOF motion platform. The music game scene, we've been charting this, is gaining momentum. Funny enough, Sega didn't bring their touchscreen music system to the UK show, but our friends at UDC had quite a selection of the evergreen Step Revolution. They also had their new touchscreen music game, while on the Electrocoin booth next door to them, the big wow, the horde of active players was around the appearance of DDR Dance Dance Revolution World. Now, this has been developed in partnership with Konami and Electrocoin, and it has been specially created for Western application. And it kind of indicated what we're going to be seeing with the return of Konami into the Western amusement market, that they are prepared to do deals and package their products accordingly to suit the market. It will be fascinating to see if this machine actually makes it over to Amusement Expo, and it will be fascinating to see if Amusement Expo gives us a clearer picture of how Konami is going to be returning to the amusement scene. We had new products vended. A company called RoboBike, a brand new operation, has developed a very high level motorbike simulation system in 2 flavors. You can have the Superbike version, or you can have the off-road trial version. A nice energetic motion base, a total ride-on experience. And it was interesting, the company has created quite a high-level simulation system, and we were at a show that was full of arcade-style motorbike racing systems. So you had the industry sort of going from the arcadey, simple ride, hit all the walls, and then having to go to the more complicated and much more realistic simulator. And the company I had a chance to speak to, they are looking more away from the amusement application and looking more at this as an attraction, a standalone e-attraction competition system. So we'll be interested to see how they fare in the market with this approach. It was also nice to see that they had created a version of their system that accommodated a wheelchair. Accessibility is very important in our sector, and I know that they are going to work very hard to get as many people to enjoy their racing simulator experience.
Yeah, I really do appreciate the wheelchair adaptive experience. I'm curious though. I don't know if you had a chance to try it, but this is definitely one that I would have loved to have experienced and just see if it actually worked. And the different level of accessibility is how accessible was it as far as gameplay is concerned. You're right. So, or how skilled do I have to be, and how many tries at the wheel, so to speak, do I have to keep giving it in order to really gain efficiency, in order to truly enjoy the experience?
I'm not a bike rider, so it took me a number of games to get the hang of using both. I had much more luck on the trials bike than I did on the super bike, because those curbs can be a bitch at high speed and you go flying off. But it encouraged me to come back and try again. And that is very important. I wanted to improve. I wanted to try my skills out. And many people, the company itself was complaining that they had to turn the skill level all the way down for all of these arcade operators so they could be able to get. But, from my point of view, I'm going, well, yes, obviously, Joe Schmo arcade operator plays all of his machines. No, that's not your target audience. And I'm looking forward to when they get some real ROI numbers of dropping the product into the target market that they're looking for, how much it draws. I could see this being a kind of an equivalent to a F1 arcade kind of experience. That said, this level of simulation would be much higher than F1 simulation would ever allow into their facility. I mean, this is even higher than their Expert Pro setting on their games. The detail, changing up, changing down, the proper braking, the cornering, the body movements. But it does have an appeal, and we know it has an appeal. And maybe with the right IP behind this could be quite a major system. Competitive socializing was everywhere. And this was a concern by the traditional amusement trade of, how much is the market going to eat into their business, because it was made clear that traditional amusement and competitive socializing entertainment can live in the same orbit, but they can't mix. You can't cross the streams because the playing style for an arcade and a redemption machine is totally different from the durational play of competitive socializing. And we had all of the big players from the competitive socializing scene there. A very UK-centric market, so the London show proved a useful sector. The golf, our friends from 360 were there with their golf system. Holoviz, we had our friends from 501 showing their interactive golf system, and I had a chance to speak to all of the directors at these companies and get a little bit more of a handle of where they think the market is going. And we will touch upon that in later sound-offs. And then our friends from Social Rivals was also there with their projection mapped golfing experience. And they all kind of sit in different aspects. And we had the amusement industry trying to jump in on the bandwagon, as we've touched before with the puttery system that our friends at Sega are fielding.
Yeah, I do appreciate at least the diversity in approaches. So these are not, this isn't your pixel floor where every laser tag company at IAPA Expo had their own version of a pixel floor, which is just basically squares that light up and the gameplay is not significantly different. These are at least different approaches to solving the, I guess we'll call the mini golf bay, solving that conundrum.
We're in that middle ground now where a location-based entertainment facility is arguing about having a mini golf 9-hole layout, where now competitive socializing venues are thinking about having a interactive single bay golfing experience, which kind of, changes the perspective on this. But it's one to watch how much these interactive golfing experiences, which are phygital, they have a strong digital physical aspect to them, are going to help push the market forward. You talk about everybody having the same system. Again, I would argue that the shuffleboard, the augmented reality shuffleboard and the augmented reality darts is where everybody seems to have the same kind of system. It's just the content's different. And there were a number of companies showing off. Our friends at Sega had partnered with a new company to have their augmented or gamified shuffleboard. We had everybody doing it. Our friends from Conduct R with their system, which is the gold standard, I would argue, of the application. And it was great to talk to the guys at Conductor about how much they're growing beyond just creating product, but also getting directly involved in facility business. And they've got some big news coming up about some of the deals that they've done. And then we had the shooting aspect. Our friends from Simway, who were there last year when we first launched the Social Immersive Entertainment Expo components to EAG. They had their gun system there. They've upgraded it. They've made it more applicable for the competitive socializing market. And surprise, surprise, they now also have a golf simulation system, which they're going to be rolling out. So they've entered the crowded waters of the projection golf simulation experience. And then our friends at Conductor had their shooting game blasting experience, which was drawing a lot of positive reports. I feel it is what Clay's should have been. It is a ratcheted shotgun. It doesn't weigh 1,000 tons, and it's a much more gamified experience. But again, it's easy to say that after you've launched the first concept. Will Clay's now have the ability to pivot and embrace some of these elements that the other systems are now incorporating?
One quick follow-up question on Simway. When we were there at EAG last year, and they were just really launching their new shooting gallery, their guns were significantly heavy.
Yes.
Has Simway solved for that? I mean, obviously, Conductor has taken a different approach with lighter weight guns, but Simway's guns were really heavy. And we went for a couple of rounds, and I was actually pretty fatigued by the end.
Simway offers now multiple guns. They offer lightweight guns. They offer realistic guns. they come from a hunting, shooting, simulation market, so they're still falling back on realistic representations of guns, but they're now offering a lightweight rifle system as well as the heavier shotgun system that we were using. And I think they've taken on board what the market needs, and they've pivoted more towards less realism and more entertainment, shall we say, from the sportainment experience. As I said, so many of you may not be aware that I was approached by the organisers of EAG last year to set up a competitive socializing components to their show, as they felt that this was a trend that they wanted to embrace. They have now moved forward with this concept, and we quite a large speaker selection over the 2 days of the event, some interesting conversations from some of the leading lights operators of the sectors. Our friends from Baller came over from Australia. We had Toca Social, and we actually had a mixer at Toca Social after the event. So it is clear from the way that the amusement trade was looking at this, that the more flashier of the booths, the more, shall we say, market interest wasn't from the amusement side per se, but it was that the competitive socializing side had grown considerably, the cuckoo in the nest, as it were. And it is clear now that the amusement trade is thinking very hard about how they position themselves in a universe that will see more investment going into competitive socializing. And just so you understand, the UK, especially London, is the hotbed, the crucible of where many of these systems were. I had to go to an event on one of the days of the show, and I just got off the train early and walked directly to that venue, and I passed over 4 different competitive socializing venues just in the centre of London, dealing to the office crowd and the tourist crowd, but mainly to the office crowd, the social engagement, the third room aspects. We have Roxy Lane's latest version of their boutique bowling, curling, beer pong, interactive darts, and their unique crazy pool, which is kind of a mini golf using pool cues. An interesting take. We had Potchak and what they offer to the table. We had Fair Games, who's just recently been acquired as a successful fairground social entertainment. They were really crowded. I was really surprised on a wet Wednesday evening how, in January, how popular these venues were. And then, of course, we have F1 Arcade, again, popular with social parties. I noticed that 2 of their private party rooms were hired for the event. It really does show how much competitive socializing has overtaken more traditional entertainment mixes.
There's a number of other brands as well that obviously you could just keep cramming them in here, but I think one of the big ones, just because it's an area that's still being explored, and we just talked about FootLab World, is Toca Social, which started at the O2 Arena in London as well.
If I jumped off the train earlier and then jumped back on the train, I could have gone to the O2 Centre, as we did, and do Toca Social. Hollywood Bowl, of course, within the O2 Centre. Then there's some, I didn't go to a Clay's on this trip, and I definitely didn't go to a Sixes on this trip. And Sixes, of course, has just gone through some interesting financial situations, which we will be reporting on more in coming reports. So it's not all roses in the garden for competitive socializing, but it is also clear. One of the key statements, again, my ego exploded, my told you so t-shirt became even bigger, was that all of the operators that I was speaking to and all of the manufacturers I was speaking to in the competitive socializing scene are now admitting that they cannot live on one entertainment components alone, that they have to think of a secondary and a tertiary component, if not a full mixed leisure entertainment offering to an audience that is becoming more sophisticated in what they want to do. And that kind of leads me to pseudo announcement, which is the embrace of the amusement trade towards trying to deal with the competitive socializing scene has seen, I was very kind of back to allow me to formulate the idea towards incorporating a competitive socializing element to the EAG show. And I've been heartened by our friends at Amusement Expo who've turned around and asked if we will do a presentation in March at their venue, a keynote that really focuses on where social entertainment begins and where amusement can fit into this and the trends that will shape our business going forwards. And once I have more details on the structure of that, I will pass that on to our audience.
Well, either way, I'm looking forward to being there in Vegas with you for Amusement Expo, with just the opportunity to check out some of the new venues that have popped up, specifically in Area 15's phase 2. So
I would argue it's the Amusement Expo, the Restaurant and Bar Show, and what has popped up in the trifecta is going to be very interesting. It's going to be well, my liver may leave me at that point in time, but it's going to be a very interesting period of time, as well as I think by what will have happened in the industry by the time we get to March. But I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. And then jumping forward to June, we have the Augmented World Expo that has now incorporated a location-based XR zone component to that. I'll be running some conference sessions there, as well as welcoming a number of the XR industry in location-based entertainment to the show floor, giving them a chance, a stage to present their products, separate maybe of the confusion of being too close to other entertainment offerings. And it will be important to see really where we are by June in location-based XR application. It will be a fascinating time. Anyway, I've taken enough of your time, and if you're still awake, please remember to jump on the LinkedIn and send me any information. It's always welcomed, and I really appreciate those people that hunted me down during EAG to say hello. It was very heartening to hear how popular the video, many of them listening rather than watching, but it was very heartening to hear how popular that is. We have some more Stinger reports coming out talking about the beginning of the year, and when I get enough free time, I've got some more entertainment social arenas to get out the door. But that's it really from me. Thank you very much.
All right, excellent. Well, another great sound off, Kevin, and we will see you on the next one.
Have a good one.